And welcome back to Washington Commanders Insider. Today, we're talking a little bit more about the Commanders versus the Giants, doing a little preview here. And so let's first jump into the injury report, just circling back to what I was talking about with Brandon Coleman. It looks like he's still in the concussion protocol. Then also, too, with Cornelius Lucas, he hasn't practiced all week. That could be big for the Washington Commanders because, the Giants defense, they are one of the top defenses in generating sacks. So this is something that the Washington Commanders are absolutely going to be concerned about because the Giants lead the league in sacks. They had 4 last week, had 8 hits, 28 pass attempts here, 35 sacks altogether. So not a good sign for the Washington Commanders if they have some injuries up front with Brian Burns and this New York Giants team set to go ahead and take on the Commanders. It's an at-home game for the Giants. And so, the Giants are coming into this game. They still haven't, I believe, won a home game. And for whatever reason, they played very well against the Commanders. I believe that, the Commanders or Washington has not really swept this series since 2022 or something like that. And so, this is going to be a challenge, I think, for the Commanders because they're coming off a real emotional win against the Chicago Bears. And I think that that is one of the keys for the game. I think that you have to come into this game. And I said this a little bit on the last show that the Commanders are really going to have to be locked in because the Giants are certainly not going to give this game to the Washington Commanders. And I think that this is the same thing that I was talking about when you were going against the Carolina Panthers. You're going on the road. They would love nothing more than to go ahead and get a win against these Washington Commanders who have really been on a roll. And, the one thing that I can say about the Commanders here and their real advantage is going to be running the football because this Giants team has been pretty, I think, terrible as far as defending the run right now. They're giving up 5.4 yards per carry. And that means that, Brian Robinson Jr. is going to have a big game for the Washington Commanders. I feel like that, he is really going to be a key for the Washington Commanders out here because I feel like, if the Commanders can continue to establish the run, I feel like that they are going to be tough against anybody in the National Football League. And, so you have to be able to establish the runs. And I think that that is going to open up some more dynamic plays down the field for Jaden Daniels, who I expect for Jaden Daniels to be in a lot better shape than he was in this last game. I'm not sure, how much the ribs really affected him, but he did have a season high in yards thrown for, and he also had a 92 rating against a Bears team that, quite frankly, is a tough Bears defense. And so for him to have 326 yards, a touchdown in this one at 92.7, I can only imagine what's going to happen as he feels a little bit more of himself. And going back to what Brian Robinson is doing right now, he's averaging 4.6 a game on the ground. And so I just said that the Giants are giving up 5.4. So that is going to be an advantage for Brian Robinson Jr. And Jaden Daniels, if he is himself, I'd expect for him to be a little bit more of a runner because he's averaging 5.7 on the year. I would expect for him to have some opportunities against the Giants. And Austin Eckler, he's averaging 6.2 and Jeremy McNichols at 6.3. So there's a real advantage for the Commanders to run the football in this game. I think it's going to be a tough divisional game, and you have got to run the football. Next up, defensively for the Washington Commanders. Look, quiet as is kept, the Washington Commanders have been actually pretty good because right now they are locking up defensively. Right now they're holding teams, under they're 10th right now in points per game. So they're holding teams at 20.9. So just slightly under 21 points a game. And I think that that is going to get even better. I think this is something that this Washington team I don't know. They just seem to be getting better each week. And that's why I'm super excited about this team because that this is just the beginning of the beginning for Dan Quinn, this coaching staff, and really, this front office and management and everything. And they're just kind of really still building this thing out. So I think that they're ahead of schedule. I think that this is something that's going to get better. And I love the fact that they've been able to hold opposing teams down even though they have some defensive linemen that have been out. They've had some various injuries to battle through. And I love the fact that the Commanders are not beating themselves, not like they did in week one, where they were giving up, some pass interference penalties and things like that were a bit inexcusable, but they're not giving up big plays. And so I think that that is huge. If the Washington Commanders cannot give up boom plays in this one, it's going to be tough for the Giants, because the Giants, they had 25 touchdowns in 17 games last year. And I think that right now, I was listening to Locked On Commanders, and they were doing a duo show, and they were talking about, look, the Giants might be in line to have a far worse season than they did last year as far as scoring. And that's pretty head scratching, considering that the NFL is geared towards scoring points and things like that. And so, look, the Washington Commanders have got to make the Giants really work when they get the football. And I think that, that is going to put a lot of pressure on Daniel Jones, who's really struggled out there. And I think that the Giants have actually, they have given up, the most sacks too as well. And so I think that this is the opportunity that the Commanders can get home, because they are tied for seventh in sacks. And so I think that if Daniel Jones has to hold on to this football, he has to look for options down the field, you absolutely have a chance to get him on the ground and make this a tough game. And yes, the Giants are 30th in sacks taken. So they are 30th out of 32 teams. So they are definitely a team that could possibly be giving up a lot of sacks here. And so, with that being said, lastly, the last point here for the Commanders is that, as good as they have been as far as getting to the quarterback and keeping teams down as far as points per game, they have not been good as far as giving up some good runs, because right now they're giving up about 5.3 yards per carry, which is more than the Giants at 5.4. So, look, they are actually, it's slightly under the Giants at 5.4, but still, that is not a good stat to be in. And so, respectively, the Commanders have got to get better as far as just stopping a lot of these runs before they get started, because essentially, if you can get 5 yards every time you're carrying the football, then you're going to eventually kind of wear the defense out if you can continue to have that type of success, because the first down marker, the field is shortened, because it's going to be easier to get to that first down marker if you know that you can hand it off to your running back and you can get 5 yards there. And so you can probably come up with another 5 at some point to get that first down. And so I think Washington has to do a better job really just getting started, doing their business up front and stopping these runners before they start. And so that's going to put, I think, a lot of pressure on Devin Singletary. I think that I clearly expect for him to be the player that is going to be out there. I've talked about how they have a lot of injuries with the Giants, but mainly their main running back that has been out there for the last couple weeks and it's really taken over the job is not likely to be out there. I mean, it is a possibility. But, with Tyrone Tracy Jr. being in the concussion protocol, I think he just entered it on Tuesday. So it's going to be extremely difficult for him to get out there. And so Devin Singletary, make no mistake about it, he can get it done. Daniel Jones has gotten it done against us before in the past, but he's only averaging 3.5 yards a carry. Devin Singletary only at 4 yards a carry. And so, I think that it goes a little bit more in the favor of the Washington Commanders. They just got to make sure that they get Devin Singletary before he gets started. So anyway, let me know in the comments, what are your key takeaways for the Washington Commanders as they get ready to take on the New York Giants. We'll be talking a little bit more with some key insights about this game coming up as the Washington Commanders get ready to visit the New York Giants. And so this is Rico. This is Washington Commanders Insider. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.